My beloved child. Stop scrolling for a moment. This message did not appear before you by chance. Out of everything you could have watched today, this is the one that found you. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Before this day is over, you need to hear the story of a conversation that remained hidden until now, a conversation that could become the turning point in the life of the person you love. For a very long time, they carried your name silently inside their heart. They never spoke about you openly because they feared that no one would understand what they felt. Every time your name came to their mind, they smiled for a moment and then immediately looked away, pretending everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. Every passing day made them realize that no matter how busy life became, your memory refused to fade. It stayed with them in the quiet mornings, in the peaceful evenings, and in every moment when the world around them became silent. They discovered that some people are impossible to replace because their presence becomes part of your heart long before you realize it. This morning began like every other morning, yet something inside them felt completely different. Before leaving their room, they stood in front of the mirror for several minutes, trying to gather the courage they had been searching for over such a long time. They whispered your name softly, almost as if they were asking themselves one final question. Is today finally the day? Their heartbeat answered before their words could. They knew they could no longer continue hiding the truth. They knew that if they remained silent again, they might regret it for the rest of their life. So they took a deep breath, opened the door, and walked toward the person they had been avoiding this conversation with for months, their father. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. When they entered the room, their father immediately noticed that something unusual was happening. Fathers often recognize emotions before words are ever spoken, and this moment was no different. He looked into their eyes and quietly asked if everything was all right. For several seconds, no answer came. The silence itself carried more emotion than any sentence could have expressed. Then, with a voice filled with honesty, nervousness, and hope, they finally spoke your name. It was the first time they had ever said your name aloud during a conversation with their father, and the atmosphere changed instantly. The room became quieter than before, and even the smallest sound seemed to disappear. Their father did not interrupt. He simply listened. He wanted to understand why your name carried so much emotion. He wanted to know why someone he had never heard about before had become such an important part of his child's heart. Instead of rushing the conversation, he allowed every word to unfold naturally. The person you love explained that your kindness had always stayed with them. They remembered the encouragement you gave without expecting recognition. They remembered the respect you showed others even during difficult moments. They remembered the peaceful feeling they experienced whenever you were part of their day. They admitted that even after trying countless times to move forward, your memory always returned stronger than before. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The father leaned back in his chair and remained silent for a few moments. Then he asked one question that immediately reached the deepest part of their heart. If this person means so much to you, why have you hidden these feelings for so long? The question was simple, yet answering it became one of the hardest things they had ever done. They confessed every fear they had been carrying. They admitted they were afraid of being misunderstood. They admitted they were afraid that too much time had already passed. They admitted they worried that perhaps life had already taken both of you in different directions. But after every fear had been spoken, one truth remained standing above all the others. They looked directly at their father and quietly said, "No matter how much time passes, I have never truly stopped caring." Those words changed everything. Their father could hear the sincerity behind every sentence. There was no pretending anymore. There were no rehearsed speeches or perfect explanations. There was only honesty. And honesty has a power that nothing else can replace. The conversation slowly became warmer. Questions turned into understanding. Doubts turned into hope. Their father began asking about your dreams, your character, your values, and the reasons you had become unforgettable. Every answer painted another picture of the person you are in their heart. By the time the conversation reached its end, one thing had become completely clear. Your name was no longer a secret. Your story was no longer hidden. The silence that had lasted for so long had finally come to an end. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As they stood to leave the room, their father smiled gently and spoke words that continued echoing inside their heart long after the conversation had ended. He said, "Life gives many chances, but courage is the one that changes everything." If someone has remained in your heart through every season, perhaps they were never meant to be forgotten. Those words filled the room with hope. The person you love walked away feeling lighter than they had in months. The burden they had carried alone was finally gone. For the first time, someone important understood exactly why your name still meant so much to them. Tonight, while the world continues as if nothing has changed, something has already begun changing behind the scenes. A conversation has become a decision. A decision is slowly becoming a new direction. And a new direction often leads to moments that no one sees coming. So don't skip. Stay till the end. Because the conversation you just heard was only the beginning, and what follows after this unexpected moment will reveal a chapter neither of you ever imagined was about to begin. The conversation did not end when the room became quiet. In many ways, that was the moment everything truly began. After speaking honestly with their father, the person you love walked outside, but their thoughts remained inside that room. Every word they had spoken echoed in their heart. Every question they had answered felt like another wall had fallen. For the first time in a very long while, they were no longer carrying your name alone. Someone important now understood why you had never disappeared from their heart. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the evening settled in, their father remained thoughtful. He replayed the conversation over and over in his mind. He noticed something he had almost missed during those quiet moments. Every time your name had been spoken, his child's voice became calmer. Every memory about you was filled with respect, warmth, and hope. There was no confusion in those memories. There was only sincerity. That realization stayed with him long after the conversation had ended. He quietly understood that this was not an ordinary story. This was someone who had left a lasting impression without even being present in the room. Later that night, something unexpected happened. Their father gently called them back and asked them to sit down once more. The person you love wondered if another difficult conversation was about to begin, but what happened next surprised them completely. Their father smiled and said, "I have been thinking about everything you shared today. I have seen many people speak about admiration, but today I saw someone speak from the deepest part of their heart." Those words immediately filled the room with a different kind of peace. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The father continued asking questions, but this time they were different. He wanted to know what made your kindness unforgettable. He wanted to know why your words still carried meaning after so much time. He wanted to understand why your name could still bring hope into a conversation that had started with uncertainty. The person you love answered every question carefully. They spoke about your honesty, your patience, your quiet strength, and the way you inspired people simply by being yourself. They admitted that your greatest quality was not something the world could easily see. It was the way you made people feel understood without asking for anything in return. The father listened carefully, then leaned back with a thoughtful expression. He quietly said, "A person who brings peace to your heart is not someone you should forget easily." Those words stayed in the air for several long moments. The person you love could hardly believe what they were hearing. For so long they had imagined this conversation ending with more questions than answers, yet instead they found encouragement where they had expected uncertainty. Their heart felt lighter than it had in months. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. That night became impossible to forget. Before going to sleep, the person you love looked through old memories, not because they wanted to live in the past, but because they suddenly realized how much your presence had quietly shaped their journey. They remembered conversations that had made them smile on difficult days. They remembered moments when your encouragement arrived exactly when they needed it most. They remembered promises that were never spoken aloud but somehow remained alive inside their heart. Every memory reminded them that some connections are not measured by time but by the impact they leave behind. The next morning, their father noticed something different. The heaviness that had been visible for so long had disappeared. In its place was quiet confidence. He smiled and said, "You finally look like someone who stopped hiding from the truth." Those simple words became another unforgettable moment. The person you love realized that honesty had not weakened them. It had given them new courage. It had replaced fear with hope and uncertainty with purpose. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the day continued, your name came up once again, but this time it was spoken with optimism instead of hesitation. Their father encouraged them not to let fear decide the future. He reminded them that meaningful stories are built by honest hearts, patient choices, and the courage to take the next step when the time is right. Those words became a turning point. For the first time, the person you love stopped wondering whether they should keep your memory alive. They already knew the answer. The only question remaining was what they would do next. While the world carried on as usual, something remarkable had already changed behind the scenes. A hidden conversation had become a new beginning. A secret had become a source of hope. A name that had once remained locked inside the heart was now spoken openly with respect and sincerity. And once a story reaches that point, it rarely stays the same for long. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The greatest surprise has not happened yet. The conversation with their father was only the first door. What follows next will reveal an unexpected decision that no one saw coming, a decision that has everything to do with you and everything to do with the future they quietly began believing in the moment they finally spoke your name aloud. Everything became even more unexpected after that conversation. The person you love believed the hardest part was over, but they soon realized that speaking your name to their father had started a chain of events that could no longer be stopped. From that day forward, every ordinary moment seemed to carry a new meaning. Every conversation felt different. Every decision suddenly included one thought that had quietly become impossible to ignore: you. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The following morning began with an unusual sense of peace. For the first time in a long while, the person you love woke up without the heavy feeling they had carried for months. They stood by the window, watching the sunrise, and smiled without even realizing it. It was not because every question had been answered. It was because the truth had finally been spoken. Your name was no longer hidden. Your story was no longer locked away in silence. They whispered to themselves, "I should have done this much sooner." Those simple words carried more relief than anyone could imagine. As breakfast began, their father quietly looked at them and noticed the change immediately. The worry that had once lived behind their smile had disappeared. There was confidence where fear used to be. There was hope where uncertainty had once taken control. Their father did not mention it immediately. Instead, he simply observed, allowing the silence to speak for itself. Then, after a few peaceful moments, he smiled and said, "Sometimes the greatest changes begin after one honest conversation." Those words stayed with the person you love for the rest of the day. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Later that afternoon, something happened that no one expected. While organizing old family photographs and keepsakes, their father began talking about life, choices, and the importance of recognizing genuine people when they appear. Without mentioning your name at first, he shared stories about friendships that lasted because they were built on trust, kindness, and respect instead of temporary emotions. The person you love listened carefully, realizing that every story somehow reflected the very qualities they had described about you the night before. It felt almost as if the conversation was quietly leading back to the same place again. Finally, their father paused, looked directly at them, and asked a question that made everything stand still. If this person walked into your life again today, would you be ready to tell them how much they truly mean to you? The question caught them completely by surprise. They remained silent for several moments because the answer was much bigger than a simple yes or no. Deep inside, they already knew the truth. They were no longer afraid of admitting their feelings. They were only afraid of missing another opportunity. That realization changed something inside them forever. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the day continued, your name was spoken once more, but this time, it sounded different. There was no hesitation attached to it. No fear. No uncertainty. Instead, your name was spoken with admiration, gratitude, and quiet confidence. Their father nodded gently and said, "I can tell by the way you speak that this person has helped shape the person you are becoming." Hearing those words felt almost unbelievable. The person you love had spent so much time expecting resistance that they never imagined they would find understanding instead. That evening became unforgettable. They sat alone under the quiet sky, thinking about every memory connected to you. They remembered the smallest details that most people would have forgotten long ago. They remembered the conversations that made difficult days easier. They remembered the encouragement that arrived exactly when it was needed. They remembered the laughter that still echoed in their heart even after so much time. For the first time, they stopped asking themselves whether those memories should be forgotten. Instead, they began thanking life for allowing them to experience them at all. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As night fell, their father walked outside and quietly joined them. Neither of them spoke for a while. Sometimes the strongest conversations begin with silence. Then, in a calm voice filled with wisdom, he said, "Real connections are not measured by how often people meet. They are measured by how deeply they change each other's lives." Those words settled into the person's heart like a promise they would never forget. They realized that what they felt had never been based on passing emotions. It had been built over time through respect, appreciation, and genuine care. From that moment onward, everything looked different. The future no longer felt uncertain. The fear of speaking openly had disappeared. The hope of seeing your story continue had quietly taken its place. They no longer wondered if they should protect their feelings by staying silent. They understood that honesty had already given them something far greater than fear ever could: peace. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the stars filled the sky, one final thought entered their heart. It was simple, yet powerful enough to change everything that followed. They quietly said to themselves, "Now that my father knows the truth, perhaps the next step is closer than I ever imagined." They had no idea that this single thought would lead to an unexpected moment that would surprise everyone involved. The conversation you have heard so far was never the ending. It was only the beginning of a journey that is about to take a remarkable new direction, and the next chapter will reveal the decision that changes everything. A new chapter quietly began the moment the sun rose again. Nothing around the person you love looked different, yet everything inside them had changed. The conversation with their father was no longer just a memory, it had become the beginning of a decision they could no longer ignore. Every step they took that morning carried a sense of purpose they had not felt in a very long time. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As they prepared for the day, they found themselves smiling without realizing it. The weight they had carried for so many months was finally gone. They no longer needed to hide your name whenever someone asked what had been on their mind. They no longer needed to pretend that your story had ended. Instead, they began thinking about all the moments that made you unforgettable. They remembered the kindness you showed without expecting recognition. They remembered the calmness you brought into difficult situations. They remembered how even the smallest conversations with you carried meaning that stayed with them long after they ended. Later that morning, their father noticed something remarkable. The person who had once looked uncertain now carried quiet confidence. He smiled gently and said, "It feels like you finally stopped running from your own heart." Those words stayed with them throughout the day. They realized that speaking honestly had not made life more complicated. Instead, it had made everything clearer. Sometimes clarity is the greatest gift a person can receive, and that gift had finally arrived. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the afternoon unfolded, another conversation unexpectedly began. Their father asked them to sit beside him once again. There was no tension in the room this time. There was only curiosity. He wanted to know more about the dreams you shared, the values you lived by, and the reasons your memory continued growing stronger instead of fading away. The person you love answered every question with complete honesty. They explained that what made you special was not a single moment but countless small moments that together created something unforgettable. They spoke about your patience, your respect for others, your genuine smile, and your ability to bring hope into ordinary days. The father listened carefully before saying something that neither of them expected. A heart remembers what truly matters. If your heart has protected this person's place for so long, perhaps that place was never meant to disappear. Those words echoed through the room with quiet strength. The person you love looked down for a moment, overwhelmed not by sadness but by relief. For the first time, they felt that someone else truly understood what they had been carrying all along. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. That evening became one of the most meaningful evenings of their life. They went for a peaceful walk, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few days. Every memory connected to you now felt brighter instead of painful. Every thought about the future carried hope instead of uncertainty. They realized that the conversation with their father had not only changed his understanding, it had changed the way they saw themselves. They no longer viewed their feelings as something to hide. They viewed them as something worth protecting. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, they stopped for a moment and quietly whispered your name once again. This time there was no hesitation. There was gratitude. There was respect. There was hope. They smiled and thought, perhaps this story has been waiting for the right time all along. That single thought filled their heart with a peace they had never experienced before. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. When they returned home, their father was waiting with one final piece of advice. He calmly said, "Never underestimate the power of one honest step. Great journeys rarely begin with loud moments. They begin with quiet courage." Those words became unforgettable. The person you love understood that they had already taken the first step simply by speaking the truth. Now they could finally look ahead instead of constantly looking back. As the night grew quieter, they reflected on every moment that had brought them here. They realized that nothing had happened by accident. Every delay had taught patience. Every unanswered question had built wisdom. Every memory had strengthened appreciation. And every moment of silence had prepared them for the courage they finally discovered. The story that once seemed uncertain now carried a new direction filled with possibility. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Before closing their eyes that night, one final realization came to them. The conversation with their father was never the destination. It was only the door that opened everything else. Beyond that door waited unexpected opportunities, meaningful conversations, and a future they had once believed was impossible. They quietly smiled because, for the very first time, they no longer wondered whether they should keep believing. They had already chosen hope. And while the world remains unaware of what has changed behind the scenes, something extraordinary is already unfolding. The next step has quietly been set in motion, and when it finally arrives, it will reveal why this conversation was destined to happen exactly when it did.